My plan was to find a job, but that's not a plan, that's a goal. That only gives you possibly an interview, but in most cases you will just get a rejection email. They feel like they have tried everything to find a job and they still have not succeeded. And what they mean by I have tried everything is I have done the same thing for a very long time, which is very different from trying everything. Yes, it is possible to enjoy the job seeking journey. Nobody is really interested in hiring someone who knows a little bit of this, little bit of that, has a little bit of experience here and there. I truly believe that anyone can become a desired professional in their field.
Career Reset, the podcast to help you succeed as a job seeker, by Carolina Newmanen.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Career Reset podcast. So I believe this is episode 5. And the last 3 episodes were a lot about me, about my career journey. So I hope you listen to that because I am very open and very vulnerable about what my career journey has been like. And I made sure that I don't frame it as some like a success story. And I especially focused on the hard things that I went through in my career. So if you haven't listened to that, I would really recommend you listen to it because I've had some people reaching out to me being very surprised by someone being so open and public about their career journey, and they mentioned that they can relate to a lot of things, and that is basically the reason why I recorded that podcast. But it's been actually a very long time since I recorded the career journey. It's been, I believe I recorded it in September and now it's middle of February. So I took some time to record the next episodes, but for you, I released them bi-weekly, so you did not notice that there was a big gap. But you maybe do notice that I sound different because when I recorded the first episodes, I was quite heavily pregnant and I had to take quite a lot of breaks to breathe, and to me it was quite funny to listen back to the podcast and edit it because I could hear how much out of breath I was. So I have to say that it is really nice to have my full capacity to breathe back now. I have had the baby, so now I do have breathing capacity, but I don't have that much time and energy to record these episodes, but I try to make it work, and I'm here today recording another podcast. I no longer have the fancy background like I did in my career story, and like the circumstances are not ideal, but that is something that I preach, that do things even when you do not have the perfect circumstances, and that will basically be a big topic of today's episode. So what I'm gonna talk about today, the name of the podcast is Strategic Job Seeking. And that is a concept that I have partly developed through my own job seeking experience, but I back then didn't call it that. I just approached my job seeking a certain way. But then later on, when I started working as a coach with clients and I help them find jobs, I decided to call it strategic job seeking. And it is basically the main topic that I teach and that I talk about, something that I deeply believe in as a way to approach job seeking because I know that it works. So if you have listened to my career story, you might think, what strategic job seeking? What I shared had nothing to do with anything strategic. It was very random, very all over the place, and that is true, and that is exactly why I then developed this approach, because I could see myself that the way I was looking for jobs was neither effective nor something that I particularly enjoyed. So before I kind of give some background and give some specifics, how does it work, how you can implement it in your own journey, I want to first explain what I mean by it. So I would say like every single client that approaches me, or like a potential client, someone who would want to work with me or someone who asks me for advice, and I think it is just generally true for a lot of job seekers, that they are a bit all over the place. And because I don't want to shame here anyone, I will talk about myself. So when I was a job seeker, like I did not really have a clear plan. Like my plan was to find a job, but that's not a plan, that's a goal. And to reach that goal, it would have made sense to have some plan of the activities that I will take to achieve this goal. Ideally, to have a plan how I'm gonna spend every single day while I'm on my job seeking journey. But because for most of the time I did not have this plan, I simply woke up every day, I browsed different job boards like LinkedIn jobs and other websites, and if I spotted something that I found interesting, I would make an application, send it, rinse and repeat. Sometimes I felt really demotivated if I received a lot of rejections, so then I did not send any applications for a while. Sometimes I was just frustrated that there are no good jobs for me to apply to. Sometimes I had a lot of motivation, so I would send like several applications in one day, but there was no structure. I did not reflect on my past experience, I did not evaluate, I did not try different things. And for most of my job seeking journey, like I really only sent applications. I did not do any networking, any personal branding. I didn't work on my employability, on my skills. So most of my days looked very much the same, and most of the time I felt quite miserable, quite all over the place. Then when I eventually decided that, okay, it's clearly not enough to send these applications, I should do a bit more, then I was very overwhelmed by all the options, what I could do, what events should I go to, how should I network, who should I reach out to, how could I work on my personal brand. Like then a whole world of activities opened to me, and I simply did what I felt that day. So as a result, I think that my job seeking journey took much longer than it would have needed to. It also was really not enjoyable, and it was not giving me anything extra. I wasn't like building any career assets that I could build upon later. What I mean by that is that since I mainly focused on sending job applications, that is a very like a straightforward activity that only gives you possibly an interview. But in most cases, you will just get a rejection email. Like the success rate, at least for me, was very low. But the activity itself of sending job applications, I don't think it's something that really like builds your skills or gives you anything extra. Well, I've read some opinions that by working on your applications, you are working on your communication skills, you are learning different ways to talk about your background, but I still don't think that it's a very value-adding activity, basically, sending job applications. It should definitely be part of a job seeker strategy, but it should not be the only thing you do. Because on the other hand, for example, networking and personal branding, those are activities that can open doors to many more opportunities, not just to a job, but you can get to know different people, you can learn about what they are doing, you can improve your communication skills, not just by writing applications, but by actually talking to new people and by communicating publicly about your background. That's basically what personal branding is. And if you fill your calendar with these different activities, not just browsing job boards, not just sending applications, it feels much more rewarding and it's much easier to kind of stay motivated because you are doing different things. You are not doing all the time the same thing. So my view of strategic job seeking has three components. Firstly, it is focusing everything you do, all your activities, on one specific area of jobs. So even if your background consists of different jobs in different fields, you only focus your job seeking on one specific area. Not necessarily just one job title, but you focus on one type of role, everything you do. The second aspect is about what I have just talked at length about, incorporating different activities other than just browsing jobs and applying for them. I believe to be successful in job seeking, you need to incorporate 4 different areas. Job applying is 1, networking is 2nd, personal branding 3rd, and increasing your employability is fourth. And the way you should incorporate these activities is so that it is aligned with who you are, what feels comfortable, what feels doable to you, but also so that it is all around the area in which you're applying for jobs. That's why you first choose that you are for a certain amount of time only focusing on one area of applying for jobs. And then you apply for jobs in this area, you network with people who are from this field, you focus your personal brand around being a professional and knowledgeable expert in this area, and you increase your employability by learning skills that are in demand in this particular area. So that is the second aspect, to incorporate all these four different areas. And aspect number 3 is evaluation, reflection, reiteration. When I was a job seeker, I did not really reiterate on how I approached job seeking. I just did the same thing over and over and over. I just applied over and over with the same CV with very minor changes. And I can see the same when people approach me and they say that they feel like they have tried everything to find a job and they still have not succeeded. And when I unpack that with them, what they mean by I have tried everything is I have done the same thing for a very long time, which is very different from trying everything. And that's why it's important to work hard as a job seeker and try a lot of different things, but it's equally important to once in a while pause and reflect, look at the results it has brought you, look at how your current strategy makes you feel. Do you feel motivated? Do you feel like you are showing up the way you want to show up? And if not, then you think about what would make sense to change in your strategy, and you constantly reiterate. And if you approach job seeking this way, the overall experience you have is way, way better. That is something that is really important for me when I work with my clients, that obviously that they find a job, but they find a job without burning themselves out and without wasting time, without wasting money, that they actually enjoy the journey. And yes, it is possible to enjoy the job seeking journey. Many clients are reaching out to me saying, Carolina, how is this possible? I actually enjoy it. Like, this is fun. This makes sense. I can do so many different things. I can try so many different things. It's been so rewarding. And I think that's such a great contrast to what I often read online, that like being a job seeker is absolutely horrible and you are just drowning in jobs and applications and rejections. Like, that is one approach, but it definitely doesn't need to be the only approach. And another great thing is that nowadays some of the most desired skills are project management and strategic thinking. Like, when I look at job ads with my clients, this is something that I see there very often. And if you are someone who is ambitious, who wants to progress in their career, but you are maybe now at the start, you are looking for entry-level jobs or internships, then if you want to progress, if you want to get promotions, then strategic thinking and project management are something you will definitely need to work on. And if you are at the moment, if you are not employed, you are a job seeker, and you are maybe a bit worried when you show up in an interview, that how are you gonna explain what have you been working on? Maybe you've been unemployed for a very long time, you've been looking for jobs. So this can be a great talking point during an interview, that you mention, yes, I've been a job seeker, but I've been doing so many different things. I created the whole strategy. I've worked on my project management skills. I created a timeline. I track all the jobs that I've applied for. I have a wide range of activities that I do when it comes to networking, when it comes to personal branding, and I just make sure that everything I do makes sense and everything I do is aligned with my overall goal, which is to find a job in this field. It can really help you stand out in that interview process as well. So there are just so many benefits. So now I want to talk about a bit more in depth about the 3 aspects that I mentioned. So focusing all you do on one single area, doing 4 different activities, sending job applications, networking, personal branding, and increasing your employability, and reflecting and evaluating. So let's start with the first aspect. Why is it so important to focus everything you do on one single area? This is a concept that a lot of my clients, a lot of my course participants are a bit defensive at first. So when I introduce this idea that right now they will focus on one single area. So if they previously, I work mainly with people who are trying to get job in some business area. And it is often the case that people have, for example, some kind of a generic business degree and they have some experience in marketing, in finance. They're also interested in HR, in operations. And they think that the more different areas, the more different jobs they apply to, the higher their chance of success. But that is actually not the case, because companies are looking for specialists. They are looking for people who are very certain, who are very strong in their area, who have all the skills they need in that particular area, who have enthusiasm for that particular area. Nobody is really interested in hiring someone who knows a little bit of this, little bit of that, has a little bit of experience here and there, because then that means that you don't really have deep knowledge in one specific area. And secondly, it is very overwhelming if you are browsing jobs and you are potentially open to a lot of different types of jobs. You need to read way more job ads, and when you do decide to apply, you need to tweak your CV quite a lot. If you apply one day for marketing jobs and the next day for HR jobs, the CV needs to look completely different if you are to have any kind of chance of success. I hope that the idea that you really need to tailor every single CV, every single application to the particular job, that is something that you are already familiar with and something that you are already doing. That is like absolutely non-negotiable, essential thing. If you are getting a lot of rejections at the moment, you are not getting even invited to interviews, this could be one of the reasons that the recruiter does not clearly see how your background fits that particular job. But if you do feel like your background is a little bit all over the place, maybe you studied something else, then you have few different experiences in different jobs, that is not a problem. That doesn't mean that you are unattractive for the job market. That just means that you need to start from selecting your focus area, what kind of jobs you want now the most, what kind of jobs you want to apply, and then you go back, you look at your background, and you pinpoint and you pick the skills and the experience that is the most relevant to this area. And that's how you communicate it in your application. You help the recruiter understand how your existing background, even though at a first glance it may not look 100% relevant, how it actually fits the job that you are applying for. And that is obviously much easier to do if you focus on one single area. And it's not just about the job applying. All the other activities also need to focus on one specific area. So if you are ready to take your job seeking to the next level, you're ready to incorporate networking and personal branding activities, which you definitely should if you want to find a job fast. If you don't want to be job seeker for years, then this is something you absolutely have to incorporate to some extent. You, of course, start low and you build your confidence with networking and personal branding. You don't need to start from sending private messages to people if that's something that absolutely terrifies you. But again, by focusing everything on one single area, that becomes your filter. So let's say you want to start going to events, to meet people, to network, to learn about different opportunities, different companies. Then if you are not focusing on one specific area and you are just open to all events, you will quickly become very overwhelmed. You might potentially even overbook yourself by scheduling too many events, and you will end up not going to any because you will just feel too overwhelmed. You will also find it very difficult to introduce yourself to new people. You will maybe have a bit of that imposter syndrome, wondering who am I? What am I doing here? Do I have anything to say to these people? But once you start focusing on one specific area, you only go to events that are somehow clearly linked to that area. So when people ask ask you, why did you decide to come to this event? You can very easily say, I'm now trying to find a job in this area, and I thought that going to this event would give me some good tips and opportunity to meet people who have the same interests like me. The past 2 years, I have been focusing quite heavily on networking, and I have gone to quite a lot of events. And I always went there with open mind. My only goal was to meet people, but I always tried to be interested in other people. I do not see that much value in constantly talking about myself, says the person who just published 3 one-hour-long episodes about her career journey. But anyway, at these events, I focused always on the other people. I asked them lots of questions. And I remember this particular event that was like for freelancers, basically. There were different speeches about very exciting topics like how does taxation in Finland work for freelancers and so on. So it was very valuable for me to learn this information, but to also get to know other freelancers who I could then share the pains and gains of this type of employment. But often I would talk to people who were there with the intention of maybe meeting a recruiter or someone who could potentially find them a job. And sometimes like their background was completely different, or the job they were looking for was completely different than what was the topic of the event. And it was, I have to say, a bit awkward because these people, you know, they had kind of their pitch ready and they were sharing very eagerly that they are looking for a job. They were often sharing also like their struggles of being a job seeker. And then I could see that the other person, and sometimes the other person was me, just thinking like, okay, but what, like, this is not the type of event for you maybe. And it was, like I said, because this person made a lot of effort, they showed up to an event, but in the end their chances of getting something tangible out of that event were very, very slim. So that's why going to networking events is a really good idea, but you need to always make sure that it is an event that makes sense for you, that there is a good chance. Not necessarily that you will meet a recruiter who will give you a job at the event, the chances of that are really slim, but that you will meet people in the industry, you can connect with them, and that can then lead to other opportunities. You can learn about other events that you can go to, you can learn about what is kind of going on in your field, what are the skills that are in demand, companies that are doing well. And then it just becomes this like a snowball in a positive way. So you focus on one specific area, you go to an event that is related to that area, you meet people who you then keep in touch with, you learn about the next events that you can go to, you learn about different skills that are in demand, you can start learning those skills, and everything starts making much more sense. And even though you are still job seeking, you are still putting yourself out there and increasing your chances of getting employed. It doesn't feel so forced. And let me share another example of personal branding. How does it work when you focus everything on one specific area? So personal branding is just about sharing online about your area of expertise and positioning yourself as someone who is really knowledgeable and who is a professional in your field. It's nothing like super fancy. You can do that through different ways, for example, through posting on LinkedIn. And again, if you post about lots of different topics, maybe you share about your job seeking journey, you share about this, that, you share an article about one field, then you share something about a different field, people will not connect you with something very specific, like this person is the person for that job, because if they keep seeing posts that are maybe good and valuable and entertaining, but not around a certain area. But if your goal is to get a job in a specific area, then if your personal brand is a bit all over the place, you are not likely to get the benefits of incorporating personal branding activities. And that's why often people tell me, Carolina, I have tried to post on LinkedIn, but it doesn't work. I still don't have a job. Then I go and look at the posts and I see very good stuff, but it just does not really help. For example, a recruiter stumbling upon their profile to think, wow, this is an HR professional because look at all these things they have shared about HR. They will see, okay, this person posts a lot about lots of different things, doesn't give me any kind of clear idea of whether or not they would be interested in this particular job or whether or not they have the skills and enthusiasm for this particular job. While on the other hand, once you decide what is your area of job search and you center all your posting on that topic, you, for example, share interesting articles that you have found, maybe books, maybe you post about events that you have attended, maybe you share more about your own experience from that field, then you naturally start attracting people to your profile who work in the same field, who are potentially employers in this area, who could approach you with some kind of a job. So it becomes less of you having to chase jobs and different opportunities, but these opportunities start coming to you because you are starting to position yourself as an expert in that particular field. And people follow you, people are interested in what you have to say. That is also something I teach in my course. If you now feel like you have nothing to say, you have nothing to share, you are not that experienced, then I will prove you wrong, and that whoever you are, wherever you are at the moment, the world needs your particular voice on this topic. And finally, the fourth activity, increasing your employability, basically learning new skills, adding new assets to your skill set to become even more desirable and to stand out when you are applying for jobs. I believe that we should all be continuously learning. It's very important for our brains, for our well-being. It's a very rewarding activity to learn different skills. But when it comes to learning specifically for job seeking, I believe it is extremely important to know what employers are looking for, what do they value, and then learn these skills in a way that really shows that you know your stuff. So you're not just taking some online courses and consuming content, but you're actually applying those skills as well. So overall, if you focus all these 4 activities on one single area, you will have much higher chances of success, and your experience of job seeking will be much more fun, much more rewarding in all different ways. And the best thing that will happen is that you will start seeing these synergies. You will be quite amazed how things will take off. So let's say you start attending networking events. Then you post about that you attended that specific networking event. Someone will reach out to you. Hey, you were at this event, I was there too. Would you like to meet for a coffee? Like, since we didn't get to chat there. That person tells you, hey, by the way, did you know this company is hiring for someone like you? I can connect you. Like, it will really start snowball, and it will not feel like you need to put like such an extreme amount of work into browsing jobs, putting together applications. It will start feeling much more effortless. So what I love about this approach is that it works and it feels much better because your calendar is then filled with exciting activities, with attending events, both online, offline, with meeting new people, with making new friends, with learning skills that interest you and that also matter, with presenting more about your background to the world, attracting opportunities to you, getting contacted by recruiters. Like, that is all completely realistic for you. That is something that can be part of your experience if you approach your job seeking a bit more strategically. I truly believe that anyone can become a desired professional in their field, that anyone can be contacted by recruiters, that it's not something that is reserved for people in fields that are in high demand, like in tech fields, or for people who have tens of years of experience. Like, whoever you are right now, with a bit more effort, a bit more strategic approach, you can become that person who, instead of having to send job applications, recruiters reach out to you. I have seen it for myself, I have seen it for my clients, that once they refined their background by focusing on one single area, and once they expanded the scope of activities they do beyond just job applying, this became their reality. And although now if you are a job seeker, your focus is probably 100% on just securing the next job, but it's important to think a bit beyond that, to think in terms of your long-term career And nowadays in business and tech, we don't usually stay in jobs for 10-20 years. We like to try different things, try different opportunities. We want to get higher salaries. We want to learn new skills and take on new challenges. So once you do secure your next job, it is possible that after a few years you will start thinking, okay, what else, what next is out there? And it's the best thing ever when you do not have to rely on, again, having to put together a CV, start browsing jobs, job applying, but you already have built your career assets in terms of your network, in terms of your personal brand that you can rely on, and your path to your next job can be literally like sending one message to someone and getting. And finally, I want to talk a bit more about the importance of evaluation and reflection on our current approach. So, speaking from my own experience, I did this it never occurred to me to do this, and probably if it had occurred to me, I would think that it's a waste of time. I just need to browse jobs and send job applications. That's the most important thing. But if I never paused, never look at my application strategy, my job seeking strategy, and I just repeated the same ineffective things, then that was waste of time. Reflection and thinking about what I could change about my approach would have actually potentially saved me lots of rejected applications. And this does not need to be anything super fancy, anything super in depth. It's just about regularly pausing, looking at, okay, what have I done so far? What results it has brought me? What results do I want? And if the strategy that I have followed so far has not brought me the results, maybe it is time for a change. And of course, whenever you start doing something new, whenever you become a job seeker and you start applying, you need to first just give it a time. It is not the right way to try a million different things at once and change your mind every single day. That is not the right way. Sometimes it is about just persistence, just sticking with it for a bit longer. But oftentimes it is about refining what you're doing, how you are approaching your strategy, and incorporating different activities. So I usually recommend having some kind of set time frames. So for example, you follow a certain strategy for a month, for 3 months, and at the end of the 3 months, you see, for example, how many interview invites you received, how you have felt throughout the 3 months. Did you feel overwhelmed? Did you feel like you would have capacity to do more? Did you feel like you are incorporating new activities? Do you feel like your confidence has grown, that now you feel, for example, that you could start posting on LinkedIn or something like that? Pausing and reflecting is extremely valuable part of a successful job seeking strategy. So I hope I've shared a lot of tips that are ready to be implemented for your job seeking overall. Instead of giving you some to-do list like do this, do that, I hope I have given you a new perspective that you can think about. You can consider how you have approached job seeking so far, and if my approach to doing it a little bit more strategically could be something that you could implement. It is a topic I talk about basically all the time. All my posts on LinkedIn are around being more strategic as a job seeker, and my course Career Incubator will help you basically incorporate what I'm talking about into your specific circumstances, with giving you exactly what you should do, what are the proven ways that work when it comes to strategic job seeking, and also how to get your confidence, your motivation, and accountability. Accountability is a huge thing when it comes to any kind of project, and job seeking, as I mentioned, is project like any other. I will leave the link to the course in the description box. So this was very packed episode. I hope you have found it valuable, and I'm looking forward to talking about these and other job seeking topics in depth to you in my next episodes. So have a great week, and I will talk to you next time.